The fluorescent lights of Memorial Hospital hummed quietly overhead as Sarah Jenkins made her rounds. Her blue scrubs rustled softly as she moved through the intensive care unit, checking vital signs and adjusting IVs with practiced hands. 10 hours into her 12-hour shift, her feet ached in their white sneakers, but her movements remained gentle and precise. Sarah paused outside room 423. This was her last stop before break, the comatose patient who had been admitted 3 weeks ago following a severe car accident. According to his chart, his name was Claude Winters, a man in his early 50s with no listed family contacts. The police had found his wallet at the scene, but beyond his identification, little was known about him. "Good evening, Mr. Winters," Sarah said quietly as she entered the dimly lit room. The steady beep of the heart monitor was her only response. Claude lay still, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths beneath the thin hospital blanket. His face, once likely handsome, was now partially obscured by bruising that had faded from purple to yellowish green. A ventilator tube assisted. His breathing and numerous wires connected him to machines that monitored his condition around the clock. Sarah checked his vitals, recorded them on his chart, and adjusted his IV drip. She worked methodically, her movements a dance she had performed countless times during her 8 years as a nurse. But unlike with other patients, when her tasks were complete, she didn't immediately leave. Instead, she pulled up the worn vinyl chair beside his bed and sat down. The weight of the day, of the past several months, settled on her shoulders. "I hope you don't mind if I stay a while," she said, knowing he couldn't hear her. Or at least, that's what the doctors said. Sarah wasn't so sure. She'd been working with comatose patients long enough to believe that somewhere, somehow, they might still register the world around them. "It's been another long day," she continued, her voice soft in the quiet room. "My daughter Emma had another asthma attack this morning. That's the 3rd one this month." Sarah rubbed her tired eyes. "The new medication costs more than the last one, and our insurance—" She trailed off, shaking her head. The single mother of 2 had been struggling to make ends meet ever since her ex-husband had stopped sending child support 6 months ago. With Emma's increasing medical expenses and 12-year-old Jason needing new clothes for his rapidly growing frame, Sarah had taken on extra shifts whenever possible. "I don't know how much longer I can keep this up," she admitted to the silent man, "but enough about my problems. How about some music tonight?" This had become her ritual over the past 3 weeks. For 10 minutes each night, she would sit with Claude and sing. It had started impulsively during her first night watching over him. Something about his solitude had touched her heart. No visitors, no family photos, just a man adrift between life and whatever might come next. Sarah cleared her throat and began to sing softly, a lullaby her grandmother had taught her. Her voice wasn't professionally trained, but it carried a natural warmth and tenderness that filled the sterile hospital room with something human. "Hush now, don't you cry, there are stars watching in the sky." As she sang, she noticed, as she often did, that Claude's heart rate seemed to steady slightly. The doctors insisted it was coincidental, but Sarah preferred to believe that somewhere in the darkness of his mind, he could hear her. What Sarah didn't know was that Claude Winters was not just any patient. Claude Winters was, in fact, one of the wealthiest men in the state, a self-made billionaire who had built an empire in sustainable technology. The modest identification found in his wallet had been deliberate. Claude had been driving his oldest, plainest car when the accident occurred, having just left a meeting where he'd chosen to remain anonymous. For years, Claude had lived a compartmentalized life. At work, he was known as a brilliant but demanding CEO. Few knew about his private philanthropic efforts or the deep loneliness that had settled in his heart after his wife's death from cancer 5 years earlier. Their marriage had been childless, and since her passing, Claude had thrown himself into work, letting personal connections wither. Night after night, Sarah continued her ritual. She sang different songs, sometimes lullabies, sometimes folk songs her grandmother had taught her, sometimes popular tunes from the radio that she thought might reach through to him. And she talked about her children, about her struggles, about her dreams of someday returning to school to become a nurse practitioner. Emma's breathing was better today, she told him on the 28th night. And Jason's science project won honorable mention. I wish I could have been there to see it, but I was working, always working. She sighed. The landlord's raising our rent next month. I don't know where we'll go if we can't afford it. That night she sang, "You Are My Sunshine," her voice catching slightly on the line about dreams being shattered. When she finished, she thought, just for a moment, that Claude's eyelids had fluttered. But the monitors showed no change, and she convinced herself it was a trick of the shadowy light. On the 30th night since Claude's admission, Sarah arrived at work to find unusual activity around room 423. A doctor she didn't recognize was examining Claude, and an elegantly dressed older man stood watching from the corner. "Sarah," her supervisor called, "this is Mr. Reynolds, Mr. Winter's attorney." The attorney stepped forward, extending his hand. "Ms. Jenkins, I understand you've been caring for Claude for the past month." Sarah nodded, confusion evident on her face. "Yes, he's one of my regular patients. Mr. Winters regained consciousness briefly this morning," the doctor explained. "He's still unable to speak due to the ventilator, but he was able to communicate through writing. He was quite specific," Mr. Reynolds added, opening a leather portfolio. "He wrote your name several times and indicated that you had been singing to him." Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. Yes, I sometimes sing to comatose patients. Studies suggest they might hear—" "He heard everything," Mr. Reynolds interrupted gently. "Not just the singing. He heard about your daughter's asthma, your son's science project, your financial struggles." Sarah's heart raced. "I'm so sorry. I should never have—" "On the contrary," the attorney said. "Mr. Winters was deeply moved. He wrote this before, slipping back into unconsciousness." He handed Sarah a piece of paper with shaky handwriting scrawled across it. "The angel who sings saved me from darkness. Help her as she helped me. Ms. Jenkins, there are some things you should know about Claude Winters. He's the founder and CEO of Evergreen Technologies. His personal worth exceeds $3 billion. Sarah stared at the attorney, unable to process his words. "Mr. Winters has established a trust fund for your children's education. Additionally, he's arranged for a house to be purchased in your name in the neighborhood of your choice, and he's created a position for you at his company's medical research division with flexible hours and twice your current salary should you wish to accept it." Tears filled Sarah's eyes. "But why? I was just doing my job." "He wrote something else," Mr. Reynolds said softly, showing her another note. He wrote, "She saw me as a person when no one else did. She shared her heart when she thought no one was listening." 3 days later, Claude Winters opened his eyes fully for the first time. Sarah was there, having just finished her shift. Their eyes met, and though he couldn't speak yet, his gaze held recognition and profound gratitude. Sarah took his hand and squeezed it gently. "Welcome back," she whispered. Claude weakly squeezed her hand in return. In that simple gesture lay the beginning of a friendship founded not on charity or obligation, but on the purest form of human connection. One voice reaching out to another through darkness, asking for nothing in return. Sarah hummed softly as she adjusted his pillows, the same lullaby she had sung on that first night. And Claude Winters, a man who had forgotten how to let people into his life, closed his eyes and simply listened, knowing that sometimes the richest person in the room is the one with a song to share.